Konnichiwa minasan. Hey friends, how are you? Welcome to Saral Japani YouTube channel. This is a place where we talk about Japan, Japanese culture, Japanese life, and Japanese language. This is the series called Japanese Lessons for Beginners. Today we are at lesson 101. Today we are going to learn some new expressions, some new official expressions or formal expressions, which include tomoushimasu, onegaishimasu,少々お待ちください and shitsurei します. So let's begin. So the first expression is はじめましょうか. So はじめましょうか. So this is in fact a question. はじめまして, you might remember はじめまして, which every beginner when introduces himself or herself for the first time, he or she says はじめまして, which means nice to meet you. So this is the same root verb はじめましょう. Hajime-masho. So the root verb is hajimeru, which means to begin. So hajime-mashite is basically the beginning of an association with a person. So that's why hajime-mashite is said only during the first meeting with a person and not ever again in lifetime with that person. So the formal present and past tense of hajimeru is hajimemasu and hajimemashita. And the expression that we had learned is hajimemashite. So nice to meet you, and this is the expression hajimemashite, which is used in the very first meeting, as I said. But beware that this is not the te form of the verb. So in one of the previous lessons, we came across the te form of the verb shimasu, which is shite. When we the example was benkyo shite imasu. That means I am learning Japanese. So the te form of the verb is used when it is a present continuous tense or past continuous tense. But here in hajime mashite, although it appears to be the te form of the verb, but it's not really. It's a special case, in fact, with te ending on the polite form hajimemas. Hajimemas means I begin. The te ending here is not the te form of the verb, but it's an exception. And such kind of te ending on a formal mas verb is very rare. So this phrase hajimemashite stands out as special, and it's only used for a first time encounter. So this hajimemashite, this is a special expression, and for rest of the verbs this type of expressions are not seen or are not common. The te form of hajimeru is basically hajimete iru or hajimete imasu. So this is the correct te form of the verb, which is present continuous, and likewise hajimete ita and or hajimete imashita is the past continuous tense. So having said that, now our today's interest is hajime mashoka. So what is hajime masho? So we had earlier learned that the masho form of the verb means let's do something. So verb plus masho means let's do the verb. So this is some kind of taking someone together with that person and let's do it together. So hajime masho is let's begin. Hajime mas is to begin or I begin, and hajime masho is let's begin. And hajime mashoka means shall we begin. So this is the expression that even I can say when I begin the lesson. So hajime mashoka, that means shall we begin. After introducing the lesson, so I can use this expression hajime mashoka. So in reply you can say hajime masho or so des. So likewise, so this is the first expression hajime mashoka. So now let's look into a conversation, and the expressions that I mentioned in the title slide, we will go into one by one those expressions. So this is a short conversation between Mr. Suzuki and a company representative or a company person. That is someone who picks up the phone at a company or at an office. Suzuki-san, moshi moshi, Suzuki desu. Hanako-san imasu ka? Gaisha no hito. Chotto matte kudasai. Sumimasen, Hanako-san wa imasen. Suzuki-san, wakarimashita. Ato de mata denwa shimasu. Arigato. Shitsurei shimasu. Shitsurei shimasu. So this was a very short conversation, and as you can guess that it was on telephone. Yes, it was on telephone because moshi moshi, this is hello over telephone, and this expression is used only during telephonic hello. So when we say hello face to face, we say konnichiwa or ohayo gozaimasu or some other expression, but not moshi moshi. Moshi moshi is exclusively for telephone conversation. So Suzuki desu means this is Suzuki, I am Suzuki. Hanako-san imasu ka? Is Miss Hanako there? So imas verb we had earlier learned. So Hanako-san imasu ka. So we cannot say Hanako-san desu ka. No, it will always be imasu ka. So if we say Hanako-san desu ka, then is it then the translation will be, is it Miss Hanako? Because the person who has picked up the phone, that person is not Hanako-san. So the question will not be valid. So that's why Hanako-san imasu ka? That means, is Miss Hanako available there? So moshi moshi, Suzuki desu, Hanako-san imasu ka? Hello, it's Suzuki, is Miss Hanako there? In the reply, the company person says, chotto matte kudasai. Chotto matte kudasai, this expression we had learned earlier in lesson 48. Please give me a moment. Sumimasen. So after checking, the person says, Sumimasen, Hanako-san wa imasen. So Sumimasen, as we had learned earlier, it represents either excuse me or sorry. So in this context, it is sorry. Hanako-san wa imasen. So imasen is the negative form of the verb imas. So Hanako-san is not present here. So then Suzuki-san says, Wakarimashita. Wakarimashita is the past tense of wakarimasu, which means understood. Wakarimashita. Ato de mata denwa shimasu. That means I will call back again later. Arigato, shitsurei shimasu. Understood or I see. I will call again later. Thank you, excuse me. And then finally, the company person says shitsurei shimasu. So now we will look into the explanation of each of these expressions in detail. So the first one is, after moshi moshi and Suzuki desu, Hanako-san imasu ka, the company person replies by chotto matte kudasai. Sumimasen, Hanako-san wa imasen. So chotto matte kudasai. Chotto is an adverb in Japanese which means a little or a bit. Matte is the verb here, which is the te form of the verb, which is basically present continuous, as we just mentioned in case of hajimeru. So matsu is the root verb, which means to wait or to hang on. And machimasu is the polite form of the verb, and matte is the te form of the verb. So chotto matte means wait a little bit. And if we add kudasai, so kudasai is nothing but please. So it is derived from the verb kudasaru, which means to give me. So it is the humble honorific verb that means please. So together, chotto matte kudasai means please wait a little or please wait a bit, or it means please give me a moment. So I am checking something. I will get back to you as soon as possible. So chotto matte kudasai, the company person asks him to wait a little, and then she checks whether Hanako-san is there or not. And after some time, she comes back and says, Sumimasen. That means sorry. Hanako-san wa imasen. Hanako-san is not present here. So as I said, here sumimasen is not excuse me, but sorry. So then Suzuki-san says, Wakarimashita, ato de mata denwa shimasu. So ato de denwa shimasu. So let's look into this. Ato means after. Ato de means later. Ato de mata is see you later. So ato de mata. Here mata is missing, but this is ato de mata means see you later. So ato means after. If we add the de particle, then it becomes later. And ato de mata, mata means see you again. So see you later. The overall meaning is see you later. And ato de mata denwa shimasu means I will call again later. So this is again later, and denwa shimasu means I will call. So I will call again later. So this is an expression which is often heard in telephonic conversation in Japanese. So wakarimashita, ato de mata denwa shimasu, and then he says, he offers his thanks, arigato, or Alternatively, shitsurei may also be used. So arigato you already know it is thanks. Then what is shitsurei? Shitsurei means rude, and shitsurei means I am rude. So I have been rude. So why this is rudeness? So you might be wondering that there was nothing to be rude, and why the caller is saying he is behaving rude. So in Japanese culture, even hanging up the phone is considered to be impolite. So the Japanese culture is so polite, and people are so humble that when a person calls, if he wants to hang up the phone, then he thinks that the other person might be feeling bad about it. So for his part, it's an impolite gesture to hang up the phone. So that's why he says shitsurei means I am really sorry. Please excuse me that I am hanging up the phone. So I am behaving in a rude manner. So please excuse me. I am sorry. So this is actually the meaning of shitsurei. So some more texts about shitsurei. Shitsurei is a popular expression used to express sorry about something in different contexts. Suppose you are leaving the office in evening and you see a colleague of yours still struggling with his work and staying behind at office. In this situation, you feel sorry for him, and while leaving, you say shitsurei or sumimasen or even ojamashimasu. So shitsurei is very often used in offices under this circumstance. So shitsurei sumimasen, ojamashimasu, all three of these can mean excuse me, but their usage according to the situation varies. For example, shitsurei is mainly used when you are leaving someone back, as we just saw. Then during hanging up of the phone, this also we have seen. Then when you interrupt two people talking, suppose two persons are talking and you interrupt them and you say something in middle, then also you say shitsurei that you are interrupting those two people's talk. And then again, while entering someone's house, when they receive you at the gate and you are entering, then also you say shitsurei because you are disturbing that person. Then sumimasen. This is a very informal way to express sorry about some minor disturbance that you have created, such as asking about direction. So on the road, you ask someone about some direction. So at that time, you can say sumimasen. So you won't say shitsurei. You will say sumimasen. This is a generic excuse me. Or you have by mistake stepped on someone's feet, then also you can say sumimasen. If the pain is not that large, you can say sumimasen. And ojamashimasu is basically when you realize that you have invaded someone's privacy or have disturbed someone at his house by visiting him. So ojamashimasu or ojamashimashita, you generally people say while taking leave from someone's house. So the meaning is that I have taken your time, I have disturbed you, I have invaded your privacy, I have disturbed you in your privacy. So please excuse me, I'm sorry about it. So these are the basic differences between the usages of shitsurei, sumimasen, and ojamashimasu. So shitsurei may be used while entering someone's house, when you join a meeting in the middle or leave the meeting in the middle or take a break from the meeting. That is, you have caused slight disturbance in the proceedings. So the meaning is that a meeting is going on in a meeting room and you need to go to the, for example, you need to go to the toilet. So when you stand up from your place and go out of the room, you have created some kind of disturbance in the proceedings of the meeting. So while going out, you will say shitsurei, and the Japanese people bow slightly while saying shitsurei. So that means you are really sorry about it, and you have caused some disturbance. So you are uh, seeking pardon for that. Japanese people use shitsurei instead of sayonara. So this again, sayonara, we have discussed earlier that sayonara is the final goodbye. So generally people don't say sayonara. Shitsurei is very commonly used while taking someone's leave. Osaki ni shitsurei. Now this is another expression related to shitsurei, which is basically the polite form of shitsurei. And Osaki means ahead. That means please excuse me for leaving early, or please excuse me for leaving ahead of you. So this basically Osaki ni is the particle. So Osaki ni shitsurei. So this expression is generally used with seniors at work. Suppose a junior person is leaving the office earlier than his manager or his boss or a senior team member. In that scenario, the person can say osaki ni shitsurei shimasu. So I am very sorry that I am leaving before you or leaving ahead of you. So osaki is ahead. A probable response to osaki ni shitsurei shimasu could be mata ashita. Mata ashita. This also again we have discussed earlier, which means see you tomorrow. So here you can see osaki ni shitsurei shimasu is very polite, but mata ashita is somewhat casual. What could be the reason for that? The reason could be osaki ni shitsurei shimasu is said by a junior person in the office, while mata ashita is the answer from the senior person. So that's why it's not that very polite or very formal. So now let's take a look at the same conversation but in a more formal or official way. So the earlier one was, even though it was also polite, but it was not very formal. So now let's take a look at the same conversation in a more formal way. So again, Suzuki-san and Kaisha no Hito. So Suzuki-san says, Moshi moshi, watashi wa Tokyo Denki no Suzuki to moshimasu. Hanako-san onegaishimasu. Kaisha no Hito. Shoushou omachi kudasai. Sumimasen. Hanako-san wa ima denwa chuu desu. Suzuki-san. Wakarimashita. Arigatou gozaimasu. Mata ato de denwa shimasu. Shitsurei shimasu. Mata ato de denwa shimasu. Shitsurei shimasu. So now, as you can guess, so this conversation is almost the same, but the expressions are different. So what different? Here, moshi moshi, hello. Watashi wa Tokyo Denki no Suzuki. Tokyo Denki no Suzuki. That means I am Suzuki of Tokyo Electric Company. So although I have written Suzuki from, but in Japanese it's basically Suzuki of Tokyo Electric, because the no particle has been used here. So in English we say I am Suzuki or I am XYZ from ABC company. So from is the preposition, but in case of Japanese we do not use kara. So from means in Japanese from is kara. So we won't say Tokyo Denki kara Suzuki, although it sounds to be correct, but in this situation in Japanese it's not used. It's not Tokyo Denki kara Suzuki. It's Tokyo Denki no Suzuki. That means Suzuki of Tokyo Electric and not Suzuki from Tokyo Electric. But the translation into English will be I am Suzuki from Tokyo Electric only. Moshimasu, to moshimasu. Watashi wa Tokyo Denki no Suzuki to moshimasu. So we will see in the next slide what does that mean. But this is generally basically a polite version of saying that I am called Suzuki from, and I am called Suzuki of Tokyo Electric. So moshimasu is a very formal way to introduce oneself. He could have said Suzuki desu, watashi wa Suzuki desu, but he says watashi wa Suzuki to moshimasu. That means I am called Suzuki. I am known by the name Suzuki, or my name is Suzuki. So that's the meaning of to moshimasu. But we will take a deeper look into what is to moshimasu in the next slide. So just wait for that. Next is Hanako-san onegaishimasu. So onegaishimasu, again a very very important expression which we had discussed earlier in lesson 48, but today we will look into it with some more detail. Hanako-san onegaishimasu means is Hanako-san available, or I want to speak to Miss Hanako, or can I speak to Miss Hanako, or I am looking for Hanako. So all these can be expressed using this short expression Hanako-san onegaishimasu. So we will take a look at to moshimasu and onegaishimasu in detail in the upcoming slides. So before that, let's go through this conversation. Then Kaisha no Hito replies, Shoushou omachi kudasai. So in the previous informal conversation, this was chotto matte kudasai. That is, please wait a moment. Here it is shoushou omachi kudasai. So this gives exactly the same meaning as chotto matte kudasai, but this is more formal. So we will discuss in the upcoming slide what does all these words mean. Shoushou, omachi, and kudasai you already know. So omachi and shoushou we will see shortly. Sumimasen, Hanako-san wa ima denwa chuu desu. So sorry, I am sorry. Hanako-san is on another call. So Hanako-san wa ima. Ima means now, as you already know. So this is the kanji of ima. Denwa chuu desu. So chuu desu means on another phone. So that means Miss Hanako is speaking to someone else on another line. So that's the meaning here. So shoushou omachi kudasai, sumimasen. Hanako-san wa ima denwa chuu desu. So please wait a moment, I'm checking. And after some time she comes back and says, sorry, Hanako-san is busy over another phone. Then Suzuki-san says, wakarimashita, that is understood. Arigato gozaimasu. Now here instead of arigato he says arigato gozaimasu, since this is a very formal expression. And mata ato, it's not atao, it's ato. Mata ato de denwa shimasu. It's the same expression that we used earlier. Earlier it was ato de mata. Now here it is mata ato de, so it's the same thing. And shitsureishimasu we have already discussed. So here one more thing to be noted, that kaisha no hito, here she says Hanako-san. So this san may be omitted as well. If the person is very close to kaisha no hito, then she can drop this san. So this is not needed if the expression, if the person is within the family or within the office colleague and or the same age group or in the same team at the same level, then san may not be used. So that is not mandatory in that case. So now let's look at each of these expressions one by one. So the first one is Tokyo Denki no Suzuki. So the no particle. So the format is place no person des. That means Tokyo Denki no Suzuki des. So now in English it is person from place. So from is the preposition whose translation in Japanese would be kara, but in this context kara is not used in Japanese. It is the no particle which is used. That means from becomes of. I am Tanaka from NHK, although it's the meaning, but I am Tanaka of NHK. So NHK, if you know it, you might know, this is the radio and television broadcaster, the government, the state-run broadcaster of Japan, which is NHK, similar to All India Radio in India. So place no person des, and the next is place no person to moshimasu. So this is the very important expression to moshimasu. That means I am called Tanaka from NHK, or I am called Tanaka of NHK. So this is the literal meaning, I am called, but the actual meaning is that my name is Tanaka. I am Tanaka from NHK. It's the same meaning. Des and to moshimasu is the same thing. The only difference is that to moshimasu is a very, very formal expression to introduce oneself, and that too for the first time with the person. So if Suzuki-san is calling that particular office and Kaisha no Hito has picked up the phone, who doesn't know who Suzuki is, or they have not met earlier or have not spoken earlier. So that's why to moshimasu will be used here. So if he calls back again next day and the same person picks up the phone, then he will not again say to moshimasu. He can at that time say des. So I am Tanaka from NHK, or I am the Tanaka of NHK. Then we have, now let's look into moshimasu. So moshimasu is the verb, as you know very well, because the ending is mas. So the root verb is mosu. Mosu is the root verb, which means to say. Now moshimasu is the polite form of the same verb mosu, moshimasu, and the meaning is still to say or I say. Watashi wa moshimasu means I say. Watashi wa moshimashita means I said. This is the polite form. Now if we add the to particle in front of moshimasu, then it becomes I am called. That is my name is. So this is the difference between moshimasu and to moshimasu. So to moshimasu is basically an expression, and it means I am called, or my name is, or I am so and so. To moshimasu. So very, very important expression here. The next one is onegaishimasu, another important thing. So onegaishimasu means, the literal meaning is that please do this work for me. That is the literal meaning. But it changes its meaning with the verb. That is, it takes the meaning of the verb. In this context, it means please call. So if we say Hanako-san onegaishimasu, then by just looking at onegaishimasu, you can't say what is being asked for. But looking at the context, you will know that what it is meant for. So Hanako-san onegaishimasu means please call Hanako-san. I want to speak to her. So person onegaishimasu. Please call that person. If a food item is mentioned and followed by onegaishimasu, that means please bring that food or please give me that food item. For example, at a restaurant you say soba onegaishimasu. Please bring soba for me. I want to eat soba. Or mizu onegaishimasu. Please get me some water. So depending on what the noun is, the onegaishimasu expression takes that particular meaning. Suppose at the school a student asks another student, hon onegaishimasu. That means please give me your book. I need to look into something. Then place made onegaishimasu. Please take me to that place. For example, eki made onegaishimasu. While hiring a taxi, you can say eki made onegaishimasu. That means please drop me at the station. Please take me until the station, to the station. So all these examples show that onegaishimasu is the common verb here, but depending on what is the word before onegaishimasu, the meaning changes. It takes the meaning as appropriate for that noun. So onegaishimasu is a popular expression used to request a service. The literal meaning is please do this work for me. The actual verb need not be explicitly expressed, as we have just seen. Onegaishimasu takes the form of the appropriate verb depending on the noun. This is what I just explained. But the literal meaning of onegaishimasu is please do this work for me. Shimasu is the verb which means to do, and onegai is a polite form of shimasu, that means please do this work for me. The answer to onegaishimasu is often hai wakarimashita. That means yes, I understood. Or sometimes chotto matte kudasai or少々お待ちください. That means just a moment please. So he has requested something, some service using onegaishimasu. The other person will say please wait a moment, I'm going to do this for you. Now, shoushou omachi kudasai. This is another expression that we came across. Kaisha no hito says, shoushou omachi kudasai. Sumimasen, Hanako-san wa ima denwa chuu desu. So what is shoushou omachi kudasai? It means please give me a moment, and which is nothing but the polite version of chotto matte kudasai. So shoushou means a little. So if you look at this kanji, you might remember that this kanji belongs to chisai. So this is the adjective chisai, which means small or little, which is opposite of big or large. So chisai is that thing. So this is an adjective. Now sukoshi. So you can see the kanji changes, and this kanji is called suko and shi. Sukoshi means a little. So this is now a quantitative. So this was a pure adjective of quality. This is now quantitative adjective a little, and it is the opposite of a lot. Chisai is the opposite of big. Sukoshi is the opposite of a lot. That means a little. And shoushou is nothing but the formal form of sukoshi. So that again means a little bit or a little. So shoushou, a little. Then machi, as we have seen, it is the formal verb of matsu. So matsu, machimasu. So it has come from the machimasu. So it is the shorter form of machimasu. So matsu, machimasu, machi, and we have matte. So chotto matte kudasai. This is shoushou machi kudasai. And if we add o in front of machi, it becomes please wait. So this is the polite form of machi, omachi. And together it means shoushou omachi kudasai means please wait a moment. So it is an extra polite version. And finally we have ima denwa chuu desu. So as you can see here, Hanako-san wa ima. So that means right now Hanako-san is denwa chuu desu. So means she is on the phone. So ima denwa chuu desu means I am on the phone now. And if you say just chuu desu, so chuu desu means I am into something. So, and also the informal version will be chuda. So chuda will be when you say I am busy or I am into something to your friend, informally, then chuda may be used. Otherwise, chuu desu is the formal version. And now you can see here this kanji character. This is very familiar, and which is naka, isn't it? So we have used this earlier as naka, which means inside. So heya no naka, we had earlier we seen uh, kaban no naka, that means inside the bag, and so on. Heya no naka means inside the room. So naka we had earlier seen, but now chuu is the onyomi reading. Naka is the kunyomi reading, that is the Japanese reading of this kanji, whereas chuu is the onyomi or the Chinese reading of this kanji. So from there this chuu desu has come. So it's not I am inside the phone, but I am into another conversation. I am into another phone call now, so I cannot take your call. So ima denwa chuu desu. So that's it, friends. We learned several expressions in this lesson. Please revise these. Please watch this video again and again so that you remember these expressions, which are very, very important and very, very frequently used in official conversations, and especially over telephone. So we will be back with another lesson. Till then, goodbye. Thanks for watching this video. Arigato gozaimasu. Mata imashou.